What is up, my dudes? Alright, one of the last lectures we're going to get for section 2. Um, we now have ways that we can interact with lists. We have a list, and we have ways of getting individual items from the list. So if I have my list of fruits here. If I want to go ahead and look at that list and just run this, and it'll tell me that my fruits are apples, bananas, peaches, pears, and grapes. So right here I also have the index of each of those items, because that's going to be helpful in figuring out where the heck some of these things are. So first thing I want to show you guys is index, and I have taken the liberty of copy and pasting all of the code so that I don't have to spend 75 hours trying to actually get it in here. So here's index. We're going to get an item at a specific location. So in order to do that, we just use fruit, the list that we want, and then we use these square brackets, and then we give it the location. So if I'm getting the fruit at location 2, I can look back at my list and say, okay, well, go down here, found the one that's number 2, so I should print out peaches. So we'll go ahead and run this, and index get an item at the location, and we get peaches. So if I change this to, let's say, if I want to get grapes out, I would change this to number 4, and then go ahead and run this. So that's how we can use index to get specific items. Now, if I want to take a specific piece of this list, then we need to use something called slice. So I'm going to go ahead and just remove, I'll leave this for here for a second. So we need to use this thing called slice. So in order to use slice, we are going to take our, similarly with index, we're going to use the square brackets. We're also going to have a colon between two numbers. So you might be able to guess what these two numbers are, but if you can't guess it, we'll show you. It's going to have to do with the location. We're going to get the location. So we're going to take a piece of this list, and we're probably going to do something from index 1 to index 3. So if I run this, okay, so slicing here, it gives me bananas and peaches. So bananas was number 1 and peaches was number 2. So this gave me everything from 1 up and 2, but not including 3. So let's take 1 up to 3. So if we wanted to include pears, we would take everything from 1 up until 4. So we want to do 1 up until number 4. So run that, and we get peaches, bananas, peaches, and pears. So we got them all. What happens if I wanted to take everything after the first one? So what I would end up doing here is I can give it this range here, or I might say, oh, what happens if I give it up to 5? Well, that'll work. That'll give me up to grapes. But let's say I didn't know what the last number was, the whole size of the list. I could actually just remove that last thing altogether. So it's 1 up until, if I don't give it anything, it goes 1 up until the end. So I run this, and this gives me 1 up until the end. And you probably think, all right, well, I can probably do that. What happens if I want the first few items? All right, well, I can do that. Let me just take the first 2 items. So I'll go from, if I'm going up until the item at position 2, then I would go nothing here. So from the beginning until 2. So go ahead and run this, and this will give me the first 2 items, apples and bananas. So these are different ways of just using slice, which is kind of this colon, I guess, to get a subsection of the list. You can use from 1 to 4, or from some number in the list to some other number in the list to get a piece inside. get a piece inside. Or you can start from a piece and then go to the end, or you can start from the beginning and go up until a piece. So those are the different parts for slice. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to learn about how we can add things to the list. We're about adding to the list. So go ahead. And I'm going to erase this bit because we don't need it here. So next thing we're going to learn about the dot append method. So all dot append does is we're going to add some things to the list. So I realized I made a mistake. I forgot the strawberries. So to do this, I'm going to take my fruit list, my fruit, and I'm going to call the append function by using the dot operator. So I call fruit, calling the append function, and I need to give it an item. So I need to give it an item to add to the end of it. So I'm going to give it strawberries, and then we'll see what happens to fruit afterwards. So remember, this top one is going to be what fruit is, and then the bottom one will be what fruit is after. So this one gave us, we used the dot append, and now we have apples, bananas, peaches, pears, grapes, and strawberries. So that's how we can add things to the list. It's kind of like it's kind of like the addition symbol if we wanted to add something. Next, we're gonna go to the subtraction symbol, and we're gonna learn about pop. So if I want to remove one item from the list, I'm gonna use this thing called pop. So we're gonna use the dot pop operator. So all pop does is it's going to remove the last item and return it. So if I wanted to take a look at what item was taken off last, I can use dot pop to figure it out. So if I do print, I'm going to call my fruit list, and I'm going to call the pop method, and I don't have to give it anything. What that'll do is it'll take the last item and give it and assign it to F. Then I'm going to print whatever the thing that was removed, and then I want to look at the list. So I would guess, because we just added strawberries, that F is going to be strawberries, and our list is going to be just what our original list was. So go ahead and run this. And so the thing we care about is down here. So we did dot pop, we removed strawberries, and then look at that, the two lists from the beginning. This list up here is the same as this list down here. So we added strawberries and then just removed it. Next thing we're going to learn about is what happens if I want to remove a very specific item. I know exactly what's in the list and I want to get rid of it. So I can actually get rid of this part here. I'll leave it because we want to talk about remove versus pop. So remove is going to find it in the list. It's going to surgically remove this item from the list. So we want to get rid of bananas. We're like, bananas should not be a fruit. You know, if I had tomatoes in here, that'd probably be a better example, but who knows. So I'm going to call the dot remove function. So take my fruit object, call the remove, and then I have to give it an item to get out of here. And I'm going to print whatever happens afterwards. So what we should see is we should see all this part about popping and appending, but then we should also now have the remove, and we should see that this list is going to show up, but without bananas. So go ahead and run that, and look at that. Apples, no bananas, peaches, pears, and grapes. So you can kind of think that both pop and remove take things from the list, but remove is used to surgically find the thing in the list, and pop is used to just take the thing, whatever is the last piece of the list out. So last thing that we're going to show you guys is how do I figure out if something is even if it's even in the list. So I'll get rid of this part. So, oops, copy it. So to do that, we're going to use the in keyword, and this isn't a function. It's not. We're not doing fruit dot in corn. That doesn't make any sense. So in is going to help us figure out if if an item is in the list. So here I wanted to see, all right, is corn in my list of fruits? And then the next one is, are grapes in my list of fruits? So we're going to see what this returns. Try to figure out before I click this run button. What do you think is going to tell me, is going to say this thing is in it or it's not in it? What type? Do you think it's going to be a number? Do you think it's going to be a boolean? Do you think it's going to be a string? It's a boolean. It's a boolean, boys. It's a boolean, which means we can use this to say something like if corn in fruit we can just print out this is not a list of fruits. So it's going to give us false. So ideally this should not print out. So if I did this, it does not print out this is not a list of fruits because there's no corn in it. So these are some methods that we have to mess with lists. So remember I'll just copy and paste this whole thing here. So remember we have index to get an item at a specific location, and that I just give the index. We have slice, which takes different pieces from that list, and I can give it a range, or I can say go from the beginning to a number, or from a specific index to the end. The next one we have append, where we can just add stuff to the end. So we have to call the append function and give it a value. The last one we can pop stuff off and return it. So I call the .pop method and I get back whatever the last item was, and if I want to and I care about it, and it'll remove that last item from the list. Then if I know what I want to get rid of, I can use the .remove. So I just call .remove on fruit and give it a value that I want to get rid of it. I want to get out of the list, and I can go ahead and print that. And then the last thing is if I want to just check to see if something is in the list, then I can use the in keyword to see if a value is in the